World leaders plan new agreement on AI at virtual summit. Dominican Republic president declares himself winner in election. Georgia's parliament speaker vows to override presidential veto. Peru classified transgender identities as mental health problems. Blue Origin launches 6 tourists to edge of space. Napkin promising Messi to FC Barcelona hits auction. Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Wednesday, May 22nd, and here are your top stories. World leaders are expected to adopt a new agreement on artificial intelligence when they gather virtually Tuesday to discuss AI's potential risks, but also ways to promote its benefits and innovation. The AI Seoul Summit is a follow-up to November's inaugural AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park in the United Kingdom, where participating countries agreed to work together to contain the potentially catastrophic risks posed by galloping advances in AI. The two-day meeting, co-hosted by the South Korean and UK governments, also comes as major tech companies like Meta, OpenAI, and Google rolled out the latest versions of their AI models. The AI agreement will include the outcomes of discussions on safety, innovation, and inclusivity, according to Park Sang-wook, Senior Presidential Advisor for Science and Technology for President Yoon. The leaders of the group of 7 wealthy democracies, the U.S., Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Britain, were invited to the virtual summit, along with leaders of Australia and Singapore and representatives from the UN, the EU, OpenAI, Google, Meta, Amazon, and Samsung, according to South Korea's presidential office. China doesn't plan to participate in the virtual summit, though it will send a representative to Wednesday's in-person meeting, the South Korean presidential office said. China took part in the UK summit. In their article, Yoon and Sunak said they plan to ask companies to do more to show how they assess and respond to risks within their organizations. Dominican Republic President Luis Abinader declared himself the winner of the weekend's presidential election in a race where crime and safety were among voters' biggest concerns. Official results are still pending, but the election website shows the former businessman leading by a wide margin as 2 of his top challengers conceded. As of Monday afternoon, Abinader had 57.46% of the votes counted. Votes have been counted in over 99% of the polling stations, according to real-time data from the Electoral Board, which has yet to declare a winner. However, on Sunday, both Abinader's main rivals congratulated Abinader on his win. If Abinader wins, he will be in office until 2028. The 56-year-old former economist and businessman first assumed the presidency in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic and has presided over one of the fastest-growing economies in the region. The popular leader has promised 4 more years of economic growth, and experts expect Abinader to expand on his first term's priorities, which include development, reform, and the fight against corruption. The vote comes amid the spiraling political and social crisis in neighboring Haiti, which shares the island of Hispaniola with the Dominican Republic. The crisis has seen Abinader's administration seal the island's shared border and airspace. Georgia's parliament speaker on Monday vowed to override the presidential veto on divisive legislation that sparked weeks of mass protests by critics who see it as a threat to democratic freedoms and the country's aspirations to join the European Union. The legislation passed by the parliament earlier this month requires media and non-governmental organizations and other nonprofits to register as pursuing the interests of a foreign power if they receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad. The opposition has denounced the bill as the Russian law because Moscow uses similar legislation to crack down on independent news media, nonprofits, and activists critical of the Kremlin. The government argues it is necessary to stem what it deems as harmful foreign influence over the country's politics and to prevent unspecified foreign actors from trying to destabilize it. Georgian President Salome Zorbov-Chivli, who is increasingly at odds with the governing party, Georgian Dream, vetoed the legislation on Saturday. But the ruling party has a majority sufficient to override a presidential veto. Shelva Paposhvili, parliament speaker and Georgian Dream member, told reporters on Monday that, of course, the parliament will override this veto. He said the parliament will hold a session to do so next week. The bill that sparked protests this year is nearly identical to one that Georgian Dream was pressured to withdraw last year after street protests. LGBTQ advocates in Peru protested in the capital city of Lima last week after the health ministry issued a new law that deemed transgender people as having mental health problems. The Supreme Decree, signed by Peruvian President Dina Boluarte and published May 10th, updated the ministry's list of insurable mental health conditions to include transsexualism, gender identity disorders, and cross-dressing. In 2019, the World Health Organization redefined its terms on gender identity-related health, moving conditions of gender incongruence out of being defined as mental and behavioral disorders and into the conditions related to sexual health category.
On May 11th, the Peruvian Health Ministry released a statement insisting that the update is to ensure comprehensive mental health interventions. The ministry ratifies its position that gender and sexual diversity are not diseases, it stated. In this framework, we express our respect for gender identities, as well as our rejection of the stigmatization of sexual diversity in the country. Despite this, the ministry reiterated that the update to the country's essential health insurance plan will remain in force. After the statement was issued, a collective of more than 60 national LGBTQ organizations staged a protest Friday in front of the ministry's headquarters in Lima. The protest coincided with the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, which is celebrated annually May 17th.
Blue Origin's tourism rocket has launched passengers to the edge of space for the first time in nearly 2 years, ending a hiatus prompted by a failed uncrewed test flight. The new Shepherd rocket and capsule lifted off at 9:36 a.m. CT from the Jeff Bezos founded company's facilities on a private ranch in West Texas. During the mission, the crew soared to more than 3 times the speed of sound, or more than 2,000 miles per hour. The rocket vaulted the capsule past the Kármán line, an area 100 kilometers above Earth's surface that is widely recognized as the altitude at which outer space begins. But there's a lot of gray area.
NS-25, Blue Origin's 7th crewed flight to date, carried 6 customers aboard the capsule. Venture capitalist Mason Angel, Sylvain Kyron, founder of the French craft brewery Brasserie Mont Blanc, software engineer and entrepreneur Kenneth L. Hess, retired accountant Kara Schaller, aviator Gopi Takakura, and Ed Dwight, a retired U.S. Air Force captain selected by President John F. Kennedy in 1961 to be the nation's first black astronaut candidate. And at the peak of the flight, passengers experienced a few minutes of weightlessness and striking views of Earth through the cabin windows. The launch followed the success of an uncrewed science mission in December, the new Shepherd program's first flight since the mishap more than a year earlier.
The famous napkin that linked the young Lionel Messi to Barcelona sold for £762,400 on Friday, British auction house Bonham said. An agreement in principle to sign the then 13-year-old Messi was written on the napkin almost 25 years ago at a Barcelona tennis club. A more formal and detailed contract with the club follows soon after. An undisclosed percentage of the sale price pays administrative fees for the online auction in what is called the buyer's premium. The contract language, written in blue ink, was intended to reassure the teenager's father, George Messi, that the deal would go through.
George Messi had threatened to take his son back to Argentina because negotiations with Barcelona had stalled. The napkin, containing the date December 14, 2000, bears the signatures of Gagioli, another agent, Joseph Maria Mingula, and Barcelona's then sporting director, Carlos Racek, who met at a tennis club. Racek had asked a waiter for a paper and was given a blank napkin. The starting price was £300,000. Messi spent nearly 2 decades with Barcelona after arriving from Argentina at 13 to play in his youth squads. He made his first team debut in 2004 and played 17 seasons with the main squad. He helped the club win every major trophy, including the Champions League 4 times and the Spanish League 10 times. Messi left Barcelona for Paris Saint-Germain in the summer of 2021. He has since joined Inter Miami.
The answer for yesterday is A, disruption. We aim to help you move house with minimum disruption to yourself. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Peru classifies transgender identities as mental health problems. Number 1, decree. 政令, 法令. In July, he issued a decree ordering an unofficial armed groups in the country to disband. Number 2, congruence. 相似,合适,相称一致. The success of the new policy relies on a necessary congruence between political, cultural, and economic forces. Number 3, stigmatization, 污名化, 污名. The stigmatization of mental illness often leads to discrimination and barriers to seeking treatment. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comments section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.